All right. Well, it's fined up a bit now. It's I think it's gone to -3, so things are really warming up here in central Otago. But somewhere where it won't be so cold, just quiet. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Is Sydney, where our next guest, and we haven't talked to her for a long time. Don't know what she's been doing. She's been away. Jaqui Lane, and she joins us now in our letter from Australia. Jack, how are you? And what's the weather like in Sydney?
It's a beautiful, stunning kind of winter day.
Oh,
We've
bugger
been sit-
off.
we've been sitting around 19 to 21,
Oh,
and
bugger off.
um, so
Uh,
it's this
you
is what I
bloody
love.
Aussies.
Yeah,
Darling,
but
I
you
don't
know
know if
what?
you've caught up. I don't know if you've caught up with the story, but there's a story that's just come out this morning that a record number of New Zealanders are leaving for Australia, as you're probably aware. But nearly half of Kiwis applying for Australian citizenship were born elsewhere. So, in other words, like coming to New Zealand, getting citizenship here, and then popping across to Australia. Um, so obviously you are the place to be, not just for people who have been living here forever, but New Zealanders as well. I suspect there's a bit of a roost going on. Um, do you come across a lot of New Zealanders in your day jobs?
Um, yeah, yes, I do, and actually that thing of kind of country skipping, getting to Australia via New Zealand, has been
Yeah.
happening for quite a while actually. So I more often meet, executives, people, all sorts, and I'm surprised that then I might be Indian, Asian background or whatever, and often they say, "Oh yeah, I had 5 years in New Zealand," or our family first moved to New Zealand, and after 8, 9 years we moved here. So it's not an uncommon thing at all.
Okay. Um, Also, while we going on about various issues, you've still trying to work out as a country how much you're going to pay towards our collective defence in the South Pacific. You entered into, oh God, what was it, AUKUS?
Yep.
Um, which essentially was you buying nuclear submarines or nuclear powered submarines. I don't know, they weren't armed, were they? But nuclear powered submarines from the Americans. And you've just paid another $800 million. You're quite hot on this, aren't you? You think this is the most extreme waste of money that you've ever come across.
Yeah, look, I just think it's the wrong. I mean, I am not a defence expert. Clearly, I just think it's the wrong option. 330 billion dollars over 20 years for some second-hand subs. So the idea is that we pay America up front, which is what we're doing, so that they can ratchet up their production line, because currently I think they're only making one and a half subs a year. So we agreed to pay them some extreme amount of money to help them get their production line up to speed. But even then, we're only going to get the second-hand nuclear ones initially, and only two of them. And then maybe in 10, 15 years' time, we'll get the six that we actually have been paying for. And given where I know that, Trump and the administration is only one administration, but to me, it just seems an exorbitant amount of money to maybe get something in the distant future.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that is interesting to me is that you've actually paid $1.5 billion
Yeah.
towards those subs, but you actually haven't not going to get them for another, what you say, 25, 30 years.
I think we're due to get the first two, I think maybe in 2035 or something. And by which time we would have paid probably 10 billion or 11 billion more, and to see nothing. Um, so I just think that we've got our priorities wrong, and that really we've been sold a pup. So
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a pup by the Labor government. The Liberals, I'll come to them in a second, but the opposition in your country is not opposed to AUKUS, though, are they?
well, in fact, the AUKUS deal was done under Scott Morrison. So, in fact, it was a Liberal Party thing, and Labor's picked up on it and run with it. So you can't, it's a bipartisan stuff up, I think. Um, so, yeah, it's just I just think that there are perhaps more smarter ways for Australia to look at defending its coastline, or helping to defend the Pacific.
Yes, well, and the next question, of course, is from whom, but I guess China's still
Yeah,
the, yeah, the suggestion there. Listen,
yeah, but
but on talking about politics over there, Albanese won an outstanding victory
you did.
earlier in the year. The Liberals lost their leader. Gosti even lost his seat. Dutton. They've elected a new leader, a young woman, oh sorry, a middle-aged woman whose name I've completely forgotten, but obviously has made that kind of
Susan
impression.
Lee.
Susan Lee, I made that, yeah, obviously made a very deep and lasting impression upon me. But there is a suggestion that the whole thing's breaking apart amongst them because they're all in disarray to do with the leadership. You're in coalition with what the National Liberals are in coalition with the National Party, which is more of a country party. They're trying to
Correct.
walk away from climate change policies. I think climate zero by 2040 or 2050 or whatever you Australians have got. What's going on over there?
Yeah, so we've post the election, we've actually Parliament has sat for the first time post the election this week.
Oh
So
gosh.
they've all had a really long holiday while we all beaver away.
Mm.
Um, and so yes, this week in Parliament, the Nationals, you've got Barnaby Joyce now on the back bench, and so the Nationals' new leader is a guy called David Littleproud, and basically Barnaby and a couple of others are just stirring the pot from the back bench, which of course is giving the Labor Party kind of a free run because they can just sit there and watch the Nationals and the Liberals just stoush it out between them. So we really don't have an effective opposition at this stage, and I'm not sure we ever will. It gives Labor pretty much a free pass to continue having inquiries and committees and meetings and not actually do anything. So
Okay.
it's
Well,
pretty
that
underwhelming,
sounds
to
pretty
be
much
honest.
like our opposition, really.
Yeah,
Because you do need a strong opposition, but it's usual though after you've suffered that kind of catastrophic political defeat for the other side to fall into disarray. I
yeah.
I guess the question you're asking yourself is, well, will this be another 3 years or another 30 years or another 10 years, say more realistically, before they get their act together? Is always intrigued as to it seems that Labor I was going to say have become the natural party in Australia at the moment, but is that as a consequence of the uselessness of the opposition, or is that as a consequence of its own great virtues?
I think it's a bit of a combination of a number of things. The opposition, Liberal National is a bit useless, um, and was going more to the right and more to the kind of hard conservative type. So that's not really it's not really how Australians see themselves. Labor typically has come in and is great on spending, and it's doing that. I think I was reading some stats the other day that 50% of the employment growth in the last 3 years has been due to government funded jobs. So whilst our unemployment rate is pretty steady around 4%. A major part of that is as a result of government spending on our NDIS, our health insurance thing, on so that typically Labor they're increasing the public service, and Australians seem to want and like that. They want to be looked after, and they feel entitled to it. So Labor's giving them what they want and tightening up the industrial relations laws. So a lot of people feel really comfortable with that. So the country's getting kind of what it wants, but it's completely unaffordable, and both federal and state debt is going through the roof. So
When you
and
say it's
China and
completely
China China
unaffordable,
China continues to fund it through buying our resources. So that's the
yeah, I was just
deal.
going to say, you can just open up a new mine somewhere and
Yeah,
you've got a new revenue stream. I mean, you are the lucky country and it's
yeah,
well known for that for a reason. So you don't need to be particularly efficient or effective at a governance level, do you? Because you've just
correct.
got that vast resource.
Yeah, and that's the devil's compact that Australia has often dealt with, which is why Albanese was in China for 6 weeks, 6 days, because resources and things to China underpin this economy and have done for decades. Makes it difficult when you've got America as an AUKUS partner, and you've got America who's wanting to throw tariffs on things. So it's a very interesting balancing act this country has to do.
Having said that, it's a country that, as I said, record numbers of New Zealanders want to go to on a yearly basis. So your standard of living is still much greater. You come back to New Zealand occasionally, I guess, to see family and friends.
Yeah.
Is it discernible to you as an Australian coming back to New Zealand that there is a lesser standard of living here?